Welcome to the Fit 40 podcast, where we take all the confusing, conflicting fitness and nutrition information and break it down so that you can live your healthiest, strongest, most energized life. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons. Let's get it started. What is up, everybody? Welcome back. We got another fun episode today. It's going to be another solo one, but I wanted to let you know that we do have a good lineup of guests coming up. Like, I am genuinely freaking pumped for who is going to be coming on in the coming weeks. So I can't give anything away because you can't say it before it's done, because then that's just jinxing it. And I come from a baseball town. Superstitions and rituals, they matter. I'm not playing with that juju. So I will hold off on telling you exactly who it is until you see the episodes. But I can guarantee, oh my God, they're going to be good. I'm excited. I can't begin to explain how pumped I am. Anyway, enough of that. On with today's show. We're going to be talking about what the best diet, what the best exercise is for fill in the blank. Okay, because I get asked this a lot, like what the best diet is, what the best exercises are for specific situations, and I'm going to go into the most common ones. All right, and then after that, we got anxiety and stress around weight loss, which is a big topic because it is so detrimental to so many people, and we're going to talk about how you can navigate that and not have to feel like you're gonna have to suffer with it the entire time and make dieting in itself a miserable process. And then last but not least is the difference between working out and staying active every single day. Big difference there. So before we go into that, I just want to say we are in another good season of television, of streaming, and like I used to do, I got to come in with the recommendations because it's good. These two that I've been watching are very good. So if you haven't checked it out already, Secret Invasion, the new Marvel one, it's with Samuel L. Jackson and S.H.I.E.L.D. and that whole group, and how those green things from Captain Marvel are now involved. And it's pretty wild, and there's a lot of parallels to how life is right now. So I enjoyed the first episode a lot. And I'm saying this on June 22nd. So, I mean, it literally just came out yesterday. And then the other one that just came out today that I already caught a couple episodes of is The Bear. That's the one with the guy from Shameless, who's a chef in Chicago and shows the stresses of being in a kitchen, starting up a restaurant. And as someone who has worked in restaurants before, I can tell you, at least from my experience, a lot of this shit is very accurate. The stress surrounding it all, but very good shows. Definitely recommend checking them out. The Secret Invasion is like an hour long, like per episode, but The Bear is a quick hit. It's like 20-25 minutes. So take your pick. They're both good. I've also started Crowded Space with Tom Holland, the guy that plays Spider-Man. That one's pretty good, but I would probably put that like third on the list. It's a very cool concept. It's just kind of getting slow in the middle. I'm expecting it to pick back up. But yeah, those are my recommendations this week. Now let's get on for what you guys came here for, the big topics. So first one is, what is the best diet for blank? What is the best exercise for blank? Now let's talk about diet, because a lot of times, like on social media, you will hear or see somebody say, what's the best diet for type 2 diabetes? And as a professional who stays in their scope, can't say that for a lot of people, but myself and many others that I consider very good coaches included will tell you, best thing you can do if you're in a disease state, that's like if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have Crohn's disease, if you have any of these factors that affect multiple systems, then the last person you should ask is a personal trainer or a nutrition coach online. You should be going to your doctor, and then whatever your doctor tells you, and I'm saying MD, make sure it's like a medical doctor. You're not getting like a nurse practitioner doing their best. You're actually seeing the doctor. Okay. Then when you get their input and they tell you, do this, not that, eat this, not that, that's when you come back to a nutrition coach or a trainer and say, all right, my doctor said to do this, so we got to implement this. And then it's our job as trainers to, as like almost like habit experts, to help you navigate that and not change the plan, but help make it easier on you. Talking about things like habit stacking, talk about like ways to reduce the friction of doing the things that are going to help keep you healthy in the long run. Those things will help tremendously. And then when it comes to exercise, it's the exact same way. Let's say you got a knee or a hip or a shoulder operated on, you go see the surgeon, then they clear you. Then you go to the physical therapist. And then when the physical therapist has seen you, done their thing, and gives you that packet of exercises to do, that's when you hand that packet to us, the personal trainer who you're working with, and say, these are my exercises that they said I should be doing. And knowledgeable coaches will do one of two things. One, they'll implement those exercises in a warm up, or like as a finisher possibly, or just somewhere in the workout, maybe as a filler, and make sure that you're doing them at some point during the workout, because as long as they're getting done, that's usually a very good thing. Number two is they'll do it and then progress from there, because a lot of times these packets are very, very like level one stuff. And sometimes it's just not stimulating enough to create enough of an adaptation for you. So let's say like you messed up your knee and your meniscus or ACL, they had to go in and repair it. And they tell you, okay, do these like banded leg extensions. And it's like, all right, well, I can do like 30 of these and I barely feel it. you If you barely feel it and you're just able to do it with ease, it's probably time to move on to another harder version of that without pushing into pain, without making it any worse, and assuming that the doctor is okay with it. Okay, so something like a TKE, like a terminal knee extension, would be awesome with a really thick band. And then progressing from there to like a leg extension machine where you could put a little bit more weight on it. Then doing something like a Spanish squat or like other different types of squats would be like the natural progression of things. So the real key thing here is to create a network that best serves you. There's not going to be one professional that knows every single answer to every single one of your questions, but collectively, if you get a lot of good people surrounding you and giving you the best information you can have, that all collectively work together, that's the best case scenario. Okay, get a good quality doctor that you trust. Okay, not somebody that just brushes you off, makes you feel like it's a waste of their time to answer your questions, or has like a God complex that, God forbid, you ask a question and they're like, I'm the doctor, you just got to believe everything I say. Find somebody that you could actually have a conversation with. They are out there. You just got to look. Unfortunately, a lot of people get into that profession for the wrong reasons, and some of them are douchebags. So keep looking. Just keep looking. It doesn't mean that you have to go to some woo-hoo doctor that like got a certification over the weekend and calls himself a practitioner. Go with somebody that has a very good depth of knowledge. Then if you have a physical therapist or something, quality one, not one that sticks you in the corner and just says, okay, ice and stim. All right, that's the hour. Bye. No, find somebody that actually looks at you and sees how you move and guides you through exercises and gives you some homework possibly. Okay, those are going to make the difference. And that's really what it comes down to. It's not as simple as just asking, oh, what do I do for this, to some random stranger online. That doesn't get the job done, and it doesn't do you any favors. And if somebody just blindly answers it without some context or nuance, they're not doing what's best for you. They just want to sound smart. So just take that and run with it, and hopefully you can apply it in the best way possible for you. Now, before I get into any trouble with any medical professionals listening, uh, I just say this from behind the curtains. Like I have friends, I have a girlfriend that are medical professionals, and I go by what they say and what I've experienced. So that's what it is. Second is anxiety and stress around weight loss and performance. Okay. Now, this has been coming up a lot recently. I've been having some really good, productive conversations with my clients. And like some of them, especially in the beginning, there's a lot of talking off the ledge, because that's where a lot of people fall off. They get overwhelmed, they get stressed beyond belief because they're not perfect right out the jump. And they're like, screw this, I'm done. Like, I can't handle this anymore, because it comes from all these expectations that you need to be perfect from the second you start deciding that you want to improve your health. If you're not by day one eating adequate protein, eating complex carbohydrates, including 2 to 3 servings of vegetables, including your fruit, making sure that you're exercising like most days of the week. And if you don't have that all down on day one, oh, and sleep too. If you're not getting your 7 to 8 hours, you're basically a failure, right? No, this stuff does not happen overnight. There's no switch you can flick and just go, bang, I'm perfect. All right, I'm just going to do this exactly to a T and run it for like 30 days and lose my 30 pounds and I'll be good. No, that's a fantasy. That's not reality. And if anybody tells you that that happens online, it's usually a lie. It's usually people that either doctor their photos completely or they take like a year-long transformation, say they did it in 30 days, and then try and sell you their program. That's super duper special that for some reason no scientists, no doctors, no physical therapists, no trainers, no nutrition coaches are aware of except for them. God, it could go off. But anyway, the reason I bring this up is because you really need somebody in your corner or some data to fall back on that'll keep you on the straight and narrow and keep you consistent, because that's really what it comes down to, is pushing past that initial stress and anxiety and finding ways to bring yourself back down to planet Earth, back to reality. And there's a couple of ways. One, you can just like rely on the data, take a lot of data points, not just weight, also your hip and waist circumference, your chest circumference. You could take progress pictures. You could take inches in other places. You could have basically, you could just rely on a friend or a family member that you see every once in a while, not somebody you see every day, but somebody that you see like every couple of weeks, and ask them like if you look any different, and hopefully they'll give you an honest answer. But those are usually the people that call it out first, where they're like, wow, you look like you lost some weight. But that's like usually pretty subjective. Yeah, subjective. Uh, but it can work. The preferred way, though, and this is why everybody who is a coach says everybody needs a coach for this specific reason, is because you need somebody to be in your corner, talk you off the ledge, and come at it from an educated and empathetic perspective. Like me, for example, I did my first bodybuilding show without any help. I think I used Lane Norton's Carbon app, I believe. And that was in the early days. Still a really good app. I love that app. But anyway, I used that and I did it all pretty much myself. I got on stage and did okay. But the whole time throughout that process, I was constantly questioning myself. Am I doing this right? Am I making good progress? Am I going to be ready? Like all these million questions that I really didn't have answers to. And then second go around, I go and hire a coach, Brad Loomis from 3DMJ. They're a natural bodybuilding coaching company. And he would give me feedback each week, take a look at the pictures, take a look at my logs and everything like that. And his just like nonchalantness about it was really comforting to me, because he's like, all right, you're doing great. This is perfect. Yeah, you're exactly where you need to be. And on the days where we needed to change things up, or I was like kind of like losing my mind a little bit, he's like, it's okay. It's part of the process. Like this is going to happen. Just expect this, this, and this. And if you need any help with this, just let me know. And like just that little bit of feedback goes such a long way. Okay. And even with business too, like the full disclosure, this time, what was it, last year? Maybe like this time last year, between that and 18 months ago, I was driving Uber just to make ends meet, because I had just quit my job and started doing online coaching full time. And I was having panic attacks every other day. How am I going to get clients? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And go figure, all of a sudden the stress and anxiety went away the second I hired a coach. And as soon as I did that, things started getting better. And here we are, full roster, and feeling really good and progressing. And I still am not immune to the anxiety and the panic every once in a while, because our brains are hardwired to keep us safe. And you know how it does that? It stays on alert. It's always like, are we okay? Are we sure? Oh, I don't know. I feel like I should be stressed right now. And even if everything's going well, you will find ways to stress yourself out. And that's why you need somebody in your corner or that reliable data, because it can make a huge, huge difference. And if you find yourself in that situation, like I have been using some techniques that have been working well for me. And one of which is like, I know there's that overwhelming feeling of like the world is ending, like something, that shoe is going to drop. And I know some people listening right now are probably nodding their heads like, oh, I know that one. Okay. What helps is, and I didn't even realize this was like a real technique. I just kind of started telling myself this, but it's called grounding. And the way I frame it in my head is I'm just like, all right, listen, if we had some sort of like World War III and I was like, everything went to crap, like everything is gone, I could find a way to like gather food, hunt if I need to, create shelter. And if I were to go broke tomorrow, I would find a way. Like I would make sure that I knew something that I could contribute or some way to put a roof over my head and feed myself because I have that much faith in myself. And then that allowed me to bring it back down. And another thing I noticed too is switching the frame when we're thinking about certain situations or certain people, because people can be triggers, like that one jerk off that cuts you off, or a family member that says something that you take like, did they really just say that? Or anything like that. And I really wish I knew where to give credit for this one, but one of the best things I heard, I think maybe like a week or two ago, and it really, no, this was like a month or two ago, and I've been saying it for pretty much every week, is if I were that person and I grew up the same way they did, with the same exact parents, with the same exact siblings, in the same social situation, the same economic situation, with all of their experiences, I'd be doing and saying exactly what they're saying right now. And it doesn't make it like everything they did is okay, but it allows you to understand and have empathy rather than just judging and saying this person's horrible or this person's a jerk off or anything else you could say behind the wheel of your car. But it definitely helps just put things in perspective, because it allows us to not jump to anger, because when we're like a light switch where we're either calm, cool, and collected or ready to rip somebody's head off, that stuff makes everything worse, because you're just like a short fuse jerk to everybody, and it's no fun living life that way. So just that in itself works too. And then also logic yourself out of it. Have that data. Like I'll be the first to tell you, like this past quarter, I'm just like, God, I feel like I'm not doing anything right. And then what I do is when I hit a milestone, I like highlight it in green, and all the milestones were like lit up in green. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm hitting all these, but I still feel like shit. It's probably because I'm making it out to be way worse than it actually is. And I used to do that too with the bodybuilding too. Like I would say if I hit all of my workouts, I got all my calories exactly where they need to be, there's no reason why this won't work. And I would feel like shit the entire time, like, oh, questioning it. Oh, I don't know if this is right. And it worked out. Okay, that especially that second show, I ended up winning my class in one, and then I placed second to the guy that ended up winning the whole thing. I mean, I was even doing okay against guys that were enhanced in a different show because they just weren't lean enough, because I stayed consistent to the process. And that's the big thing to wrap this whole thing is, don't get so carried away with outcomes. Like, yes, we all want to lose that 10 to 20 pounds. We all want to get the abs. We all want to whatever, fill in the blank. But you don't have any control over that sometimes. You can set yourself up for success by creating a process that it would be unreasonable not to reach that goal. So that's again where having a coach that knows the process helps a ton. But right now, if you're listening, like say you want to lose that 10 to 20 pounds, step one, figure out a calorie deficit. And then if you can hit that 7 days a week, then do that for months on end. There's no reason you won't hit that goal. And then do things that will help support that goal, like improving your sleep, hydration, and all that stuff. But do it one at a time. It's not a race. And then when you do that, there's no reason that you won't see success. So give that a try. The grounding stuff, the logic your way out of it. And it doesn't erase the problem. It just makes it easier, because we're all human at the end of the day. We're going to have anxiety. We're going to have stress. And even if it's not related to our weight loss or strength goals or whatever, family, work, like they're going to be stressful and they're going to make it feel stressful. But this stuff will help mitigate that length of how long you're feeling it. So the more we can shorten those up or just learn to embrace it and just sit in it, the better off we're going to be. And and it won't affect any major decisions going forward, because that's the worst thing, is when we get super emotional and then make dumb decisions like, oh, I didn't lose a pound this week, I'm going to cut like 300 calories down. Or, oh my God, I'm not doing what I need to, like, I'm not losing the weight, I'm going to quit. That's what ends up happening. So as long as we don't do that and we stay the course, everything will be okay. Okay. If you have a good plan, it will work out. Now, on that note, I know that was a little heavy, but last but not least, this one's a little bit lighter. And that's the concept of being active for 7 days out of the week versus working out 7 days out of the week. Because I do come across in my Fix My Diet calls, like the ones that I do for everybody in the Facebook group or coaching clients, and they'll start by saying like, oh yeah, I hit the gym like 6-7 days out of the week and I do all these things right and I don't see any results. And I'm like, well, I can almost guarantee that going hard in the gym 7 days a week probably contributes to that. And that's because when we're talking about results, we're talking about adaptation. And adaptation does not come from constant stress from working out. Adaptation comes from stress and adequate recovery, because stress plus recovery equals adaptation. Try and like solidify that concept in your head when we're talking about getting results, because it's great to work out all the time if you truly enjoy it. But if we're trying to do what's best, that ain't it. Just know that. And it's okay. It's just because when you stress your body to a certain point and don't recover, then it starts to deteriorate or have bad effects. For example, when you do, say, 7 days of gut busting workouts where it's high intensity interval training, or these crazy high intensity classes that you're doing 1, 2, sometimes 3 times in a day, that stuff is stressing your body out beyond belief. And when we do anything to our bodies, our hormones have a response. And when you stress, we are in a very bad hormonal environment for fat loss, for muscle gain, and just for not being stressed and feeling like shit. So that's why on this podcast, you're always going to hear me preaching about like that 2 to 4 workouts per week window, because that's usually what's best for most people. And even though you're only doing like your strength training 2 to 4 days, you can fill those other days with other things that are restorative. Okay, that's the key, restorative. If you want to keep that habit of showing up to the gym every single day, you absolutely can. And honestly, that's probably like the best case scenario for a lot of people, because sometimes you get a string of days where you miss and then all of a sudden you fall off. So having the consistent ability to show up all the time can help a lot of people stay on track. So what do you do on those days that you're not doing your strength training and pushing it pedal to the metal, like really challenging yourself? Oh, one of my favorite things to do, and I actually just did it today, is zone 2 cardio. Okay, you've heard people like Peter Attia, Jordan Syatt, Alex Viada, like they're all like rave about zone 2 cardio. And that's because 1, it's restorative. It helps you feel better between sessions. 2, it's incredible for cardiac health. Okay. And 3, it's very easy to do regardless of where you are. So this is done with any cardio that you so desire. It really comes down to what your heart rate is, being in that zone 2 area. So you could do this a couple of different ways. You could download an app where it tells you what zones that you're in, or another way you could do it is by breathing nose only, assuming that you don't have an obstructed nasal passage. Like if you can breathe normally, then if you can do just nose only without having to open up your mouth, that's a pretty good tell that you're in zone 2. And then another, last but not least, the easiest one is talking pace. So if you're on the treadmill or if you're out walking with a friend, if you have to, like, say you're talking to them, if you have to go anyway, like, and stop yourself between what you're saying because you have to take that breath, that's a good sign that you're not in zone 2 anymore, because zone 2 should feel pretty easy. It really should. So if you find yourself having to do that, then you could slow down the pace a little bit. Your friend might not be happy about that, but hey, you're on your journey, they're on theirs. Okay. Try and send this podcast to them and let them know all about zone 2. So that's one option. Another thing you could do is a mobility day, which I actually did double today. Woohoo. I did the mobility right after zone 2 because doing stretching and mobility work actually works better post workout. Not saying you shouldn't pre-workout, but I'm saying it has an enhanced effect post-workout too, because your tissue temperature is elevated. When you work out, your body temperature goes up because we're working hard, our muscles are doing their job. That's just what happens. And when your tissue temperature is elevated, that means because you're a little bit warmer, you're a little bit more flexible and you have a lot more of that blood pumping. So you're more limber and you can expand the range of motion that you normally would get if you were stiff and cold. So doing mobility days after a little bit of a walk is awesome too. Stretching things out that are tight. So let's say you have a really tight low back, stretch out your hips and your upper back, and that should help a lot, especially if you have squats, deadlifts, or anything like that the upcoming day. Because if you have 24 hours between stretching and your big lifts, that's plenty of time. People kind of get all up in arms about stretching before you lift, but the science or the study that a lot of people quote had the members of the study stretching one body part for 6 minutes before doing a max lift. And anybody that's ever done powerlifting or anything like that knows that's stupid. It's a very dumb idea. Anybody could have called that one. But if you were to do, say, 30 to 60 seconds of something, whatever the body part is, even if you did that pre-workout, it'd be totally fine. So if you're doing a mobility day the day before, you're even more fine. So that's another option. And then you could also do what's called a trigger day. I learned about these from Mind Pump, another amazing podcast. If you go and check them out after this one, you won't regret it. They're incredible. And they talked about trigger days that are in the programs that they write. And those days are pretty much like pump and fluff days for anybody who is familiar with bodybuilding logic. Like you pump it up. The goal is to do high repetitions with like really light bands or really light weight or even body weight to the point where we feel it in our muscles, but we're not tired. We're not fatiguing the muscle. We're not beating it up. It's more so just to be like, all right, they're working. And what that does is it increases blood flow to all of the muscles that are being worked. It helps improve recovery and it has your joints feeling really good. So that is one option too. There's a lot of things you can do. And last but not least is just doing a really light workout, like in general, kind of same concept as the trigger workout. So if you wanted to do, say, a 10-minute, 20-minute workout that you can recover really fast from, go for it. I know personally, if I do an arm workout and go to complete failure all the time, I can come back the next day and be totally fresh just because that's the way that my body is. And I know that over the years. So if you have that special body part that you know you can pretty much beat it up all the time and it doesn't affect the next day's lift, then you could do that too. I'm not saying to push it pedal to the metal and go to failure. I'm just saying you could get a pretty solid workout in and recover adequately if your body is predispositioned to do that. But everybody's different. Sometimes people can do that with their leg muscles. Sometimes people can do it with their chest, their back. It really comes down to knowing your body. And if you're a beginner, I wouldn't even mess with that stuff. Stick to the trigger workouts, the mobility days, the zone 2 days, because the bang for your buck is way higher with those than going with another workout, especially if you don't know your body just yet. So just something to think about. But that's pretty much all that I have to say about that. So I'll cut it there before I go on another ramble about anything. I hope that you guys found this podcast very helpful. If you guys want more free stuff, I'm going crazy this next month or two of trying to overload my Facebook group and email list with free stuff. And if you're on the email list, there is a link to what's called the free resource vault. It's got workouts, it's got nutrition tips, it's got worksheets for better sleep. What else? How to get more steps. Pretty much everything your heart could desire when it comes to free stuff that helps a ton. And I just want to give it away to everybody. All you have to do is be on the email list. So if you're not already, go to fit40coaching.com, fit, Fit40coaching.com, and sign up for the newsletter at the bottom and you'll get it right away. So if you have any trouble with that, just DM me. Happy to help. Otherwise, hope everybody has an amazing rest of their week, and be sure to tune in for the next couple because these guests are going to be awesome. See you later. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode and you're a new listener, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss another episode. And if you're a returning listener, I would love your feedback. If you could take 2 seconds to just leave a quick review on iTunes or Spotify and rate the show, that would be greatly appreciated. So thank you in advance and have a great rest of your week.